explain to you what vore is. Vore is a fetish that's kind of based around like consuming and being consumed, predator and prey. It's usually kind of cartoonish. You see it in like cartoons and stuff like that, like a big giant monster like eats all the little people. Like that's kind of in a nutshell what it is. It's a lot more than that, but that's kind of your basic vore explanation.
There you go, settling in. Cameras are all ready. All right. Welcome, Codi.
Hi.
I'm so glad that we got to meet each other in person. I'm really excited to chat with you today.
Me too. Well, I'm Codi. I grew up in Las Vegas, and I also grew up in a very like Christian home. I went to Christian school, so I think that probably is related to what we're talking about today. But I got into pornography when I was an adult, after a few years at the university studying communication and neuroscience. So I ended up really liking porn a lot, and so I stuck with it because I have found it to be really cool for me. I'm pretty good at it, I think, and I have a lot of fun doing it. I've met a lot of really cool people, and so that's really been a big part of my life now. Well, I had a roommate at the time, and she did camming, webcamming, and I don't know, I was like tutoring and I was going to school, and I would come home and sometimes she would be doing these webcam shows and they seemed like they were really fun. She's really fun, and I don't know, it just looked kind of fun, and I was like, I could do that, and I gave it a try, and I'm really glad I did. I started out with like camming and making clips, and a couple years into that, I started getting reached out to by mainstream studios, and so I do shoot mainstream porn on top of my personal stuff, and that's kind of how my business looks now. So when I started getting into camming, it was not long after I broke up with my boyfriend, who I had been dating since high school. And you know, I had a great relationship with him. I really loved him, but I had a lot of sexual exploring that I needed to do that I could not do within that relationship. And I think that camming gave me a really good opportunity to start looking into it. And it's been, I mean, I've been in the industry for over 6 years now, and it's been something that I've been learning about every single step of the way. Yeah, I think it's something that I didn't realize how little I knew about it until I'm here, sitting right here. Yeah.
Talking about it.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't know what I was doing for a long time, and you know, you just kind of touch and go. And for a long time, I actually didn't really consider what I was doing to be masturbation. And I think that that's probably speaking to a sort of repressed and shameful upbringing with that. And I don't think my upbringing was really that extreme. That was just kind of, I don't know, normal. Like, I didn't want to think that I was like bad for doing anything like that. And on top of that, I have a fetish. I have a fetish for vore, which is a pretty unusual one. And I didn't have any context for that at any point in my life until I until I started doing sex work. So I didn't even know that that was a sexual thing that I was doing. And sometimes I wonder if the reason why I started doing it was because it was a way for me to express myself sexually without thinking that what I was doing was sexual, so that I could kind of avoid the shame of that a little bit.
Can you explain what that is for anyone who doesn't know?
Vore. I will explain to you what vore is. Vore is a fetish that's kind of based around like consuming and being consumed, predator and prey. It's usually kind of cartoonish. You see it in like cartoons and stuff like that, like a big giant monster like eats all the little people. Like that's kind of in a nutshell what it is. It's a lot more than that, but that's kind of your basic vore explanation. there are so many myths about sexuality in general, and especially about female sexuality. There's a lot of people who believe that the female orgasm doesn't even exist. Obviously, that's not true, but also there's a lot of misconceptions about pain with sex for women. For a long time, there were doctors who would tell women that they were hysterical or that they were traumatized, and that's why they would have pain with sex. And turns out, women you need to, I guess, in general, if you have a vagina, you need to warm it up. And a lot of sex just doesn't really understand that vaginal anatomy and how it works, and that there is a lot of kind of buildup that you do need to have in order for it to be pleasurable, and even in order for it to be not painful or not uncomfortable. And then on top of that, a lot of people, and I feel for a lot of these men who are very focused on, being able to last a really long time and have a really big dick, and neither of those things are going to make me come. I can guarantee it. And I know a lot of other women who feel the same exact way. There's a lot of other factors that are more important than that. And for a lot of people, penetration is not something that makes them come. For some people, they can't even come during penetration. I know for me, I couldn't come during penetration for a really long time. It took me a long time of learning and understanding my body and finding partners who were actually good at pleasing me before I was able to come during penetration. So that's an example. I don't know. The idea of the first times that you have sex, it's so daunting. Oh my God, they're gonna put a penis in me? I have to accept all of this? That doesn't sound fun or comfortable. I want it, but it doesn't sound comfortable to me, Penetration doesn't seem like all that it's cracked up to be, and it kind of isn't until you can learn how to make it fun and make it pleasurable. Okay, my sexual evolution from start to now, I would say, looks like yes. Starting out, I had this Vore fetish, didn't really understand it, and but I was into men primarily, and I liked flirting and having these kind of fun interactions and teasing and that kind of stuff. Being bad was really fun to me, and I don't even know if that was entirely rooted in sexuality or if it was just an expression of my freedom and autonomy, which I kind of think it was more that, but they all kind of go together. But I'd say at my core at that point, I was definitely very submissive, and to this day, fetish is a really, really big part of the way that I am sexually. I struggle to be aroused without elements of fetish at play. But at that time, I was very, very submissive. And as I got involved with sex work, I started to explore my submissiveness, learn what that means, what I was really into. And, I really like sadistic doms and things like that. Not a big fan of being hit, not a big fan of spanking or impact play, but I really liked scenarios and stories and mind control and things like that. And those kinds of fantasies, which kind of ties into the Vore stuff. And that was kind of where my sexuality sat for a long time. And then maybe a couple of years ago, I started to masturbate with a lot of intention. And I started to actually very specifically masturbate while putting myself into a headspace where I didn't allow myself to feel shame. Not allow myself, that kind of is shame language, but I tried to just be what I was and let my mind completely wander. And what I started to discover in those spaces was that I was very dominant as well. And I early on in that, when I started doing that, I had this scene with another performer who is very submissive, and something awakened in me when I did this scene, and it was so fun. And while I started doing this, I started also realizing that I was attracted to women, and that was something that that was something that I had not seen about myself for a really long time. And and that was just like kind of hidden from my sexual experience for a long time because, you know, I don't necessarily see bodies as being particularly attractive. Like I said, the fetish elements are really what arouses me. And so, you know, people are like, ooh, look at, you know, she's hot. I'm like, yeah, she's hot, but like, I don't know, and he's hot, but neither of those things are what arouses me. And so, you know, realizing that I had to kind of let go of a lot of shame around those things. Part of it was like shame with myself that I could be dominant, that I could be somebody like that. And I realized that. And so, I don't know, since then, like I've realized that I am open to so many different kinds of sexual experiences that I wasn't before. And it's been really, really cool. So that's been really exciting. And then to kind of close it out right now with where we're at now, I recently got on a birth control patch. And this particular birth control has really, really hurt my libido, which is like part of why I'm getting like emotional right now, because that sexual experience has always been really important to me, and especially lately, as it's been a way for me to discover more about myself and find a certain power and strength in it. And so having that libido kind of reduced has been kind of scary, and but you know, we're here. I'm trying. You know, I'll probably end up switching my birth control, but you know, it's normal to have experiences like that. So, well, when I do masturbate, I usually just take the vibrator and play with myself for a little bit and call it a day. But over the last couple of years, like I was saying, I was doing these sort of like self-pleasure rituals, I would say, where I kind of like let go of shame, and that was a lot more involved. Actually, specifically what I would do is I would not let myself come for about a month. And after about a month of not letting myself come, I would have a whole day dedicated to like pleasuring myself. And I mean, I would just use my vibrator. I would also like, you know, kind of like put myself into a meditative state, you know, however you might do that, with whatever tools you might do that with. But I put myself into a good headspace, and I would kind of set an intention, and then I would, you know, go at it with the vibrator. I would also try to incorporate toys that I knew had felt good, because I had tried them out before, like on cam or something like that. I'm like, oh, this is actually really fun. So, you know, playing with G-spot stimulation and playing with even some like anal and butt plugs and stuff like that. And by doing it like that and like really letting my brain go and like being like setting the mood, adding music, turning on a bunch of red lights in the room, like I went nuts for it. And I would dress up and I wouldn't show anybody. And by doing that, I was able to achieve multiple orgasms for the first time. I had like a rolling orgasm, and I was like, oh my God, this is what they talk about. This is so cool. And I would like cry, and I would like have these like multiple rolling orgasms. And I could only do it once a month, but it was fucking cool, and it was really fun. I think that if you don't know how to touch yourself, and if it's something that just causes you a lot of anxiety, I do recommend doing exactly what I did, which is to, you know, dedicate a specific time to doing this for yourself. Make sure that you're not going to be interrupted. Make sure that you have a lot of space to do it and that you have time to do it. And also, don't get disappointed with yourself if you don't orgasm. Don't hold that over your head. And in fact, don't get disappointed with yourself, period. I know it's easy to say don't get disappointed in yourself, but you know, do your best to remind yourself not to be hard on yourself. Remind yourself that it's not shameful, and whatever your brain is going towards, whatever you're feeling attracted to, it's not shameful. As long as you're not causing somebody harm with these thoughts, they're just thoughts. And in fact, there's probably something that your brain wants to tell you, and probably a piece of you that you should listen to and that you might want to get in touch with. And if you have a hard time with that physical touch, you know, I've talk to people who have that problem a lot, you know, you got to build up to it. You got to take your time with it, and don't be hard on yourself if you're not ready for it. Being comfortable and lowering your levels of anxiety are really closely tied with having orgasms and like being horny and that kind of thing. Horniness is usually a relaxed state. So if you know the idea of touching yourself makes you anxious, it's gonna be kind of hard to touch yourself. So be kind to yourself, take your time with it, build up to it, you know, maybe try it once a month, go at it. Or maybe try not doing it for a while and then doing it. Don't withhold it from yourself because you're ashamed. Withhold it with yourself because it's fun.